I'm really happy, really happy to have Kevin. So it's 1:30. So what I'll do, we'll kick things off. So yeah, really welcome to the Deal Finders Corner. So this is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter, hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman and CEO and co-founder at Property Filter. So it's the UK's, the UK's highest rated property platform to find deals. And we are on a mission to empower our property investor and deal sourcer members to find 1,000 deals this year alone, thanks to the Property Filter methodology. And the purpose of this weekly Deal Finders Corners talk is to give you more of the best of what's available. We invite expert guests who will share with you the latest and most current strategies, tactics, and secrets about what actually works right now in terms of findings and making deals, and the reality of systemizing and running a high-performance business in property. So it's my real pleasure to introduce you my good friend, Kevin Wright, on today's Deal Finders Corner. So Kevin did his first refer back in 1983. It doesn't look like this at all, but he did, and has gone to do many more. Landlord, developer. What's that, Kevin?
The flattery will get you everywhere.
Oh, I know. We have a French accent, you get away with a few things, don't you?
Oh, you get away with miles. Oh.
So Kevin's a landlord, developer, accomplished property finance broker for over 20 years. He's earned a reputation for creative and legal approaches to property investing. He owns, I would say, the BRR model, and he makes the BRR model actually stack thanks to predictable processes and his own IP, and I hope he will share some of it today, and creative finance, which is a big cornerstone of what you'll hear from Kevin today. I really appreciate Kevin for his no-nonsense approach. He's a bit of an anti-guru, you will see. And he appears publicly and speaks at events only very rarely, at rare occasions, because he tends to focus his free time to generously serve and share his secrets with his very close group of Ninja Investor students. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about Kevin's talk today. So please give a massive virtual welcome to Mr. Kevin Wright.
There you go.
Thank you very much. So tell us more, Kevin.
Okay, yeah. So let's just roll you through some slides as we go here then. Okay. So we're going to look at today is the probably the biggest secret in property, as I like to see it. And but before we do that, let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer rhetorically or verbally, but just think about the question. So how far away do you think you are from doing £1 million property deal right now? I'm just going to leave that with you, your brain. So there we are. Just checking you can still hear me. I've got some sort of funny message coming up on there, but there we are. So how far away do you think you are from doing a £1 million property deal, whether it's a single property of £1 million or a cumulative value of properties? Let's have a look. So who am I? Well, I'm a speaker. Probably guessed that because I'm doing that right now. But I do it at events, not all over the country anymore, but just in the towns that I choose to run events. And I train people as well and mentor them as well. So I select a few people each year that I'm motivated by their ambition to move forward in property, and I choose to work with them and then push them further and faster and accelerate their journey using everything I've learned over a number of years. I'm an investor, did my first property deal back in 1983, 40 years ago. Bought a wreck, did it up, sold it, banked cash. Never a bad outcome. I write blogs, got hundreds of blogs on my websites. I write magazines for article. I'm a best-selling Amazon author. My book, Buy, Refurb, Refinance. And the thing that underpins pretty much everything I do is my career as a property finance broker. I'm now a partner, sleeping partner actually now, because I've sort of stepped back from that about 5 years ago to focus on mentoring and developing ambitious investors. So it's the 20 plus years of brokering every type of finance, from a simple buy-to-let mortgage right up to multi-million-pound development loans and everything in between. So any talks that I do, any training that I do, any mentoring that I do is primarily based on my experience of finance, because that's the differential. As an investor, I'm nothing special about that. I'm very much middle of the road, ordinary stuff on that. But it's finance and my ability to come out and, or my willingness to come out and talk to it rather than sit in a broker's office just doing the brokering work, that I think sets me apart. I've got a YouTube channel, and people tend to quite like it.
It is.
There's literally hundreds of videos on there, and there's two good things about them. They're short and they're informative. Actually, there's two more good things about them. That's a fact. An opinion that people frequently tell me is, I don't waffle and I don't bullshit. So there's, hey, can have a look. Not now. Curb your enthusiasm until we finish. But it's just go on to YouTube, Kevin Wright Property. There you are. It's giving you a little flavour there. So I go on there most weeks and I'll post a video about something. I've got some mentee case studies on there. They're multi-episode case studies, because I don't want anyone to get the idea that property is easy. So this takes you start to finish, and everyone that's on there, I haven't got many on there, only a handful, but everyone that's on there, they've all had challenges all the way through, but they've had to overcome them. So the issue is, it's not that your property is easy, it's property is achievable once you overcome the challenges that invariably come with a project. There we are. So secret, let's talk about this. Secret is to build a portfolio of properties on a single pot of cash. And how do you do that? So recycling your cash is the way to do it. Look, you can derive any type of, any way from the variations of getting rental income. Doesn't matter which way you do it. Buy-to-lets, single ASTs, HMOs, serviced accommodation, you know, a whole load of other ones. If you can't pull your cash out of each property that you buy, you're going to have struggle to build a portfolio. You know, one thing's going to happen: you're going to run out of cash before you run out of ambition. So the most essential thing to do to learn in property, to get to where you want to be in the shortest time and with the minimum fuss and the minimum projects, is to get really good at only buying properties you can pull your cash out. Now, so the big secret that enables you to do that is bridging finance. I've probably got some people running for the exits already at the very mention of the word, because it's a pretty scary word, or two words, isn't it? Bridging finance. In fact, as someone said to me a few years ago, "Oh, don't say those words, they're in my scary box." Yep. And look, if you haven't used it, maybe got some people here that have used bridging before, but if you haven't, it is probably going to be pretty scary. But then look, you know, if for your very first driving lesson, your driving instructor turned up with a Ferrari and said, "Hop in and give this a go," I think you found that pretty scary too. So now, knowledge dissipates fear. I'm going to give you a bit of knowledge about bridging in this session. Okay, so one thing's definitely got to say, you know, if bridging isn't in your comfort zone, it needs to get there. Because when you step outside your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. And you've been doing it all your life. Look, you walked before you were ready. You fell over a lot. You went to school before you were ready. You got jobs before you were ready. You learned to swim before you're ready. You learned to drive a car before you're ready. We do everything before we're ready. And it involves getting out of our comfort zone, feeling uncomfortable with something that feels clunky until we get passably good at it, and then really good at it. So, and look, the first time you bought an investment property, you were probably way outside your comfort zone then, even if you were using a mortgage, because you hadn't done it before. So it's a natural progression of life, is we get comfortable being uncomfortable for short periods of time. Okay, I want to run through a deal that one of my mentees, actually, because there's some really important lessons here, and those that are already working with me will know what I'm talking about here. So it's a bit of a refresher for you guys, and an education for people that haven't had the chance to look at this yet. So Matt bought this flat at auction, and he completed in he bought it for 93,000, and he completed in 11 days, which is pretty fast. He had 28 days to complete, but he doesn't need them because he had a really good solicitor and he had really good brokers with the bridging finance, and that was us, unsurprisingly, maybe. Now, here's the issue. There's a very important lesson. Those that have worked with me already know this. When we did the research on land registry for this flat, the woman that was selling it at auction bought it 5 years earlier for 147,000. Now, the lesson here is that she felt that letting it go at auction for 93,000 was a good outcome for her. Yep. Now, what's that? That's over 50,000. So she thought taking a 50,000 plus loss over a 5-year period was a good outcome. Now, the temptation is to think that everyone thinks in property like you think. And if you think, well, I'd never lose 50 grand on a property, then you're missing out on deals because you're projecting your view of the world onto other people. And not everyone thinks the same. So, it's really important when you're looking to buy properties at the right price, and you're influencing, you're being influenced by either what they paid for it or what they're asking for it. And either has absolutely nothing to do with what you should be offering on. So we don't have a responsibility to make sellers and agents happy. The only responsibility we have is to ourselves to make offers on property that make us an acceptable margin. Profit, if you want to use that word. Okay. Now, so that's a lesson one. The second lesson here is that Matt thought outside the box, if you want to use that phrase. Not my favorite phrase, but loads of people viewed the flat, not much wrong with the flat, actually, just needed a minor refurb. Problem was in the stairwells, and they were a mess, a real mess. There was water seepage around everywhere. There was discoloration. Paint was flaking off the walls. Really, really dilapidated. Now, consequently, hardly anyone bid on it. And their standard thinking is, well, I can refurb the flat, but I can't refurb the stairwells because I don't own them. They're communally owned. Now, shortening this story down, the guys that have worked with me will know this story, and they might even have met Matt. But he won the bid at a really cheap price. He got his builder to, before he bid at auction, to get a drone up, and he saw there was about literally a handful, no more, of loose tiles on the roof. And these loose tiles were where the rain was coming in every time it rained. So that was where all the water was from. And because it hadn't been attended to, it was in the state it was in. Now, he budgeted to do that. The upshot is the managing agent came round, said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm just repairing these footwells. I just bought one of the flats in the block." And then the story was, the reason it was so bad because the other leaseholders had stopped, in protest, stopped paying the management fees. And in a standoff, the managing agent said, "Well, I'm not fixing it until you start paying your managing fees." So neither side was prepared to move. Here's the killer blow. He said, "Oh, I'm glad you're fixing it. Send me your bill, and I'll square you up on that. So what he budgeted for, he never had to do. So he just got a minor refurb to turn it into a holiday let. We then got spent about $7,000 on it, just making it look nice inside. We then put a mortgage on it for 100, got it valued at 150, put 112,500 mortgage, all his cash out. Now, if you get to do that a few times, you can buy a portfolio with even just starting with a single pot of cash. Now, we use bridging finance to buy it because it can get it done in 11 days and certainly within 28. And there we are. So that's just a quick case study to show you that you can get this stuff done. Does every deal work like this? Absolutely not. Actually, most deals don't work like this. So the skill is finding the ones that do work like this. So Matt and Charlotte, here's his wife, Charlotte. So when I met them, they were confused on what makes a good deal, how to find it, how to fund a purchase, how to leverage multiple deals. And I get this a lot, you see. They every time they talked about property investing, they got a load of verbal abuse from people they were hanging around with at the time. So we bought that auction flat, helped him to buy that auction flat, got zero cash left in. He then bought an illegal HMO, got planning to convert that to 3 flats, then bought a bungalow, got planning to granted to build 3 new houses, then bought a block of flats, dilapidated block of flats, and do BRR. So, you know, up to now, he's bought £1 million worth of property, or they bought £1 million of property. And they say that working with me gave them the confidence to ignore the negativity and feel unstoppable, which was nice. So here's Karim. He bought a wreck, bought it for 64, did a back to brick refurb, spent 30,000 on it. We then, this is all through our brokerage, the finance, we're doing this. So got it revalued at 140, refinanced at 105, all his cash out. And he's now on his way to, he's got 3 and he's searching for his 4th. They're all fairly cheap. They're up in Stoke, but there we are. Okay. So he's now got 3 properties, used BRR methodology, and across those 3, when he refinanced them, he had a cumulative £3,000 left in the deal, which is nothing. So he's earning £10,000 a year on that. But before we met, he was just looking at small deals, really, and he had a mortgage buyer mindset. In other words, he only looked at properties you could get mortgages on, and that's a big failing. Yeah. So why would you use bridging finance? So look, here's the process that I see many people going through. Often they don't start off buying property; they start off controlling it, using rent to rent, or rent to SA, or rent to HMO, or lease options, or purchase lease options. Now they're okay as an income replacement thing, or maybe as a future income generator. But you know, real wealth comes from ownership. So you need to get on to owning property. Maybe you're already there. But this is the typical journey I see. Some people, if they start off with bigger chunks of cash, bypass this first level and jump straight in at the next level, which is buy cheap, irrespective of where they live. They'll be traveling hours in most cases to buy stuff between 50 and 100k in really cheap parts of the country. And okay, the issue there is you've got lots of competition, because that's where everyone else is going, because anyone with a limited budget goes down that road. A slight elevation is to get up between 200 and 250, and that's probably where most people sit. Most people come into property investing and they have a ceiling, self-imposed or otherwise, of 250k. Now, get in the higher areas, and the air gets a lot fresher because it's uncontaminated by competition comparatively. So 250 to 500k. But the real juicy stuff is when you get up to 500 or a million or even a million. In fact, those are the two areas where you can pretty much get rid of almost all your competition. See, now there's you'll know this saying from Henry Ford: whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And most people have limiting beliefs on the level they can play at in property based on their understanding of finance. Increase their understanding of finance and they can play at a higher level with their current resources. People that work with me usually find that even just using whatever they've got available to play with them, they can buy deals 200 to 300% bigger. And that elevates them up to a higher level, which means that they do deals where A, they make more profit, and B, there's less competition. So why would you use bridging finance? You can buy properties faster. Absolutely you can. Most people know you get 28 days to buy at a traditional auction, a bit longer at a modern auction, but 28 days, traditional auction. And bridging finance is used extensively to fund auction purchases. In fact, almost every property bought at auction is either bought with cash, real cash, or bridging. So you can buy properties with little money down. That's one of my training modules is the 90% flip strategy. Just using a simple thing, market value bridging. You know, we know how this works. Not many lenders do it, but those that do ignore the purchase price and lend on the lower of the asking price or value. Now, every mortgage lender doesn't do that. In fact, no mortgage lender does that. They lend on the lower of the purchase price or value. Market value bridgers ignore the purchase price and lend on the lower of the asking price or value. Now, my most watched video on YouTube, out of the hundreds are on there, is the one where it's I talk about this, how to shrink your deposits to way less than 25%. Okay, so why else would you use bridging? Because you can buy properties from auction, because they give you 28 days. Good luck trying to do it with a mortgage. You might do it, you probably won't. And even if you did it, it's going to be a white knuckle ride all the way along, and not good for your heart rate, certainly. So yeah, you use bridging to buy from auctions. You use bridging to buy repossessions, because most of the banks that repossess, when they accept offers, they also want a completion within 28 days. Biggest reason to use bridging finance is to buy properties you can't get a mortgage on. Now we're getting into the real secret stuff. So what are properties you can't get a mortgage on? They're cash buyer only properties. They've got a problem or a condition or something about them that mortgage lenders won't lend on. And here mortgage lenders are brilliant. They're really helpful because they're so picky. There's loads of things they won't lend on. Now, bridging finance will lend as long as you show them how you're going to make it mortgageable. Okay, so what's your fix-up plan? What's your problem-solving plan? Make that plausible, you get the money. And you refurb properties before you buy them. One of my students, I've been talking to them only this week about a deal they're looking at doing that. And this is just a delayed completion strategy. You exchange contracts, do the work, and then complete, and then use a done-up value bridge to borrow usually 100% or more of the purchase price. So you spend a bit of money on the refurb, but you don't need a deposit. So all pretty much groundbreaking strategies and secrets that most investors don't know, and actually most mortgage brokers don't know either, in my experience. So rolling on. So you've got 5 types of bridging loan. You've got a purchase bridge, which just lends on usually up to 75% of the purchase price, a bit less if it's commercial. You've got a market value bridge, just told you about that. You've got a refurb bridge, so they lend up to 75% of the purchase price and 100% of the works costs. So that's a bit of a game changer, because people tend to buy bigger deals if they know they've only got to find 25% deposit. You've got a done up value bridge, just told about that, use that with delay completion. And you've got a cross collateral bridge, which you borrow money against the property you already own, as long as it's got a huge chunk of equity in it. So using cross collateral bridging, you can do deals with no cash down, really, by putting up two properties, the one you want to buy and the one you already own. So quick walk through those. You can there's YouTube videos that give them on my YouTube channel, give a more detailed explanation of the 5 types of bridging, and then there's more videos that actually do a single video on each of those types. So there's some stuff to drill down. I've got a limited amount of time, so this is just a quick skate through today, and give you some pointers on where you can go to get more information. Okay, so here's NASA using a market value bridge, bought a £250,000 property and borrowed 95% of the purchase price. Why was that? Because it was on the market for 350, and the bridge's value says it's worth 350. So he bought it £100,000 below asking price. Why was that? Because it sat on the market for over a year and no one wanted it because it was a redundant commercial property. It looks residential, but it was a commercial usage. It had C4 usage, I think. And another my students, Valeri, he did it last month. Got 100 grand knocked off a 750,000 property. Why is that? Because it had been on the market 2 years. No one wanted to buy it. Why was that? Got a problem, but he knew how to solve the problem. So then NASA then spent 50,000 converting it back to resi, got it valued at 450, refinanced at 300. Again, money back in the bank. So yeah, he just built up a portfolio. He did quite well actually before we met. 25% deposits, the traditional way. Then he learned to bridge against value, game changer. Now he buys bigger deals with small properties, and he's grown his portfolio up to 40 properties currently. So that £1 million, how close are you to doing a £1 million deal? Let's have a look. Let me just roll back there actually. So I normally do this on a flip chart, so it's going to have to be, write this down if it's easier as I'd speak it. So if you bought a portfolio, one of the things about portfolios is you shouldn't be paying market value, because if you're buying, I don't know, 3, 5 or more properties from a landlord, and you're saving them all the hassle, then you should get that at a discount, and you should get a discount to market value. The phrase that I use, might want to write this down, is don't pay retail when you buy wholesale. Don't pay retail when you buy wholesale. So you should get at least 20% if you're buying a portfolio and saving the landlord a lot of hassle. And the landlord's, well, why is he selling? Well, could be retiring. Possibly his bankers repossessed him or her. But if it's not retiring, it's more likely to be the effects of Section 24. So the profitable portfolio he had until he started being taxed on the income and not the net profit means that it's now well, a lot less mortgageable, at least. So so let's say this 1 million portfolio. Now you could let's say he's reasonably motivated as well, and we've done some portfolio purchases where they're reasonably motivated. They'll do you a bigger discount if you can do it in a quicker deal. So let's just say that after a bit of negotiation, you got agreement to buy this at 750,000. Okay, so write $1 million down, write 750,000 down, and let's just say we use the market value bridge. Now, you might be lucky and get 75%, but I doubt it, to be honest, knowing way bridging lenders approach portfolios. He might get 70, but let's say he got 65. So 65%. But 65% of what? Well, the market value. Now, let's just say, and we've done this in practice, but let's just say that whether it's 2 houses, 3, 5, or 10 houses, doesn't really matter. The market value bridges lender, market value bridges valuer goes round, does his valuations and says, yep, cumulatively, these houses are worth $1 million. Okay. So market value bridging lower of asking price or value, both are $1 million. So you get to borrow based on $1 million. Now, 65% of $1 million is 650,000, but you're buying it at 750. Now, hopefully you're writing these figures down if it helps you to understand. Some people are auditory, but so as a visual, you've got to see it to really get it. You don't get it if you hear it. So I'll leave you to decide which you find easier. So 750 purchase price, you can borrow 650. Difference is 100,000. So you can buy £1 million worth of property with 100,000 deposit in this scenario. Now let's ramp that up another level. Cross collateral bridging is borrowing money against the property you already own with significant equity in it. Now, if you had 100,000 usable equity in a property you already own, then you could use that, or we could broker that and use that so that you could actually buy £1 million worth of property, and the only cash you would need would be your valuation and legal fees, because you're using the equity in the property you want to buy and the property you already own to do the mortgage, to do the bridging loan. Sorry. So there we are. For most people, certainly the people that come to my one-day events, that's a game changer. Even if whether they've got the cross collateral part or not, knowing that they can do that, just knowing that allows them to play at a bigger level. Of course, you're going to get confident. You're not going to do it on the basis of a half-hour chat, but once they get confident, first of all, you understand. First of all, is that there's the knowledge and that this is possible. Second, you learn to get the confidence on how it's possible. Okay. So now we're going to do a Q&A. I've got time to do a Q&A. Gwilym's said we're going to do that. But I'm just going to give you an invite to come to a couple of events that I've got coming up this month. So on Saturday, this Saturday, the 10th of June, I've got my summer barbecue. So this is a community networking meeting, 40 to 50 people. And look, I see a problem with most networking events. And that is the networking is squeezed to allow net selling. So most of the time, and certainly this is a weekday evening between 7 and 9. Excuse me. You know, there's a lot of selling now. Let me be clear on this. If you turn up at 10th of June, you cannot buy training on that day. There is nothing available to buy, and you won't be pitched, and you have my guarantee on that. It is just, it's just networking. Start at 10, finish at 4:30. We have a 2-hour lunch, big networking breaks in the morning and afternoon. I've got a guy, one of my mentee students, Andy Hart. Now, I'm going to interview him in the morning, just up to before lunch. And he's going to tell us how he made 70 grand after tax early this year by buying and selling a property and doing nothing to it. Now, you know, we'd all like to make money from buying and selling property, but buying and selling it without doing anything to it, well, that's a special skill. So I'm going to drill down and ask him questions and unpick exactly how he did that. Do you want to know how he did it? Book a ticket. Gwilym's going to give you the link after the event. He's going to email you out the link to these events. It's on the bottom of the page there, pitchfreenetworking.com. So you want to book a ticket? I've booked a fairly big room, so we've got plenty of tickets left. So come along. And look, we just break out. We go and either in the room, there's plenty of room there, or out in the coffee area. We just go and chat one-to-one. So you've got 5 hours solid networking. It's in Stratford-on-Avon. It's the Crown Plaza Hotel. So if you can get the Crown Plaza Hotel on Saturday, come along. 50 quid plus VAT. That clothes, all day parking and your barbecue lunch. So it's I just put this on for my community. We meet up. We do this 3 times a year. Not barbecues. You wouldn't be doing a barbecue in the middle of winter, but we meet up every 4 months. We meet up and we just chew the property fat. And
fine. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
There we are.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So there we are. So there's the link, pitchfreenetworking.com. Jump on and book a ticket. Love to see you there. And when you come and find me, and hey, here's a tip. I'll be easy to find. I'll be wearing a yellow shirt. Gwilym knows that. And come and say, hey, I was on the property filter webinar earlier this week. So come along and introduce yourself, and I'll shake your hand. And there we are. Great day. What else is there? There's the Buy, Refurb, Refinance Summit. Now, that is a training event. Now, again, easy to go on there, BRR Summit. I'm coming to the end of those now. I only do a few in the spring and a few in the autumn. I've got 3 in June, then nothing until October, because I take a few months off a year. It's called work-life balance. And I like a work-life balance. So that's £47, brrsummit.com. I'll expand on what you've seen today. So I'll give you a lot more information on how to make BRR work, but it's based on what you've learned today. Obviously, a lot more information. We've got a whole day. I've only squeezed in half hours, sort of highlights at the moment. So, you know, this is a consummate event that will tell you what you need to be doing and show you where you need to focus on that. There is an opportunity. Well, actually, when are they? Right. I'm in Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield this Thursday, 8th of June. I'm in Leeds on the 24th of June. And I'm in Heathrow on the 27th of June. Those are the 3 dates. I think on a couple of those, at least, I've got an additional speaker that will be giving a different but more education on a property-related subject. There's a VIP option. The VIP option gets you. I'm actually doing it tonight, actually. So I've got a Zoom session. It's called My 3 Triggered Deal Finder. It's free to attend for anybody on a VIP ticket to the BRR Summit event. And I show people how to find the properties on Rightmove that are hiding in plain sight with the least competition, but the biggest profits. Also show people the ones to avoid, because mortgage lenders hate them. You're going to get a rate of 8 to 10% if you go after these properties. So I show people which ones they are. But also, what do you get for a VIP ticket? You get speedy entry into the room, just the same as speedy boarding. You get to pick your seat. On the summit day, you get a 28-page workbook, and you'll get a can't be bought exclusive video series. 7 ways to buy your next property, 7 ways to finance your next property purchase. So BRR Summit. Now, Here's the deal. If you want to book on both, if you book on the VIP option on that BRR summit, and then you book on the Summer Barbecue 2, there we are, Summer Barbecue 2 as well, book on both, I'll refund you the Summer Barbecue. So you can come for nothing on the barbecue. But if I see 2 bookings from the same person, I'll refund the barbecue ticket. There you go. Okay, I'm done. So we're going to stop screen share.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Thank you, Kevin. So there's always a few interesting sound bites, when I hear you speak, and I think it's quite unique. Some people might not have heard this before, but I like when you say, you're missing out on deals because you're projecting your view of the world onto other people. That's very you, and it's I think your way of saying, thinking out of the box, and I really like it. And you're right. The money is in the challenging deals, and you said the air gets fresher because it's not contaminated by your competition. With the value of property going up and the value of the deals, you're looking at. So I think it's it's a good prompt for everybody to say, maybe don't look where all the earth is looking, and maybe look at something a bit more niche. And then obviously the way you're going to make this work is by fixing a problem. So you talk about unmortgageable properties. So obviously you can look for all the cash only properties on Property Filter and all these things, so you can go straight to these. And I think it's quite, people are, when with bridging, people only know about this one bridging. They buy it because this is the only lending they'll have available, because they're going to go back to brick on something. But it's very people need to know that there's all these other things, your market value bridge, your done-up value bridge, and the cross collateral. So for existing landlords and investors, if you've got a bit of a portfolio, it's likely you can leverage the equity of one asset to have to make those crazy deals. And because the challenge you solve are bigger, you've got no competition, therefore your price is better, and then all these bridging products work really well together. And and I like when you say you refer property before you buy. So yeah, exchange and delayed completion. Most people will not think about that. And then your retail versus wholesale, so it's how can you create value, and something that other people can do. You did mention about I really like you when I saw you speak a couple of times, and I've come to your one-day event as well.
Yeah.
Is your thing about cosmetic refurbs. So can you tell us more about where is your view of like the mainstream investors, like what most people do, the herd, if you like, and how can we differentiate ourselves from these? Because I liked when I've met you a few times and you mentioned about this, it was bigger aha moment and made me look at more complicated deals and higher value deals, and therefore more profit deals. Yeah.
Okay. So pretty much everyone goes after the same types of properties, and whether they worked it out for themselves or they've been on a property course that's told them that's what they need to do. And it's a very crowded marketplace. Now, there's a saying, I think different people have been attributed to it. Warren Buffett's one, James Caan is another. And the saying is observe the masses and do the opposite. Now, I think the real returns, the real profits in property are made possible when you observe the masses of property investors and do the opposite. So cosmetic refurbs are generally mortgageable. So you'd buy them on a mortgage, you'd spend a few £1,000s improving them, and then you try and refinance your cash out, often by further advance from the same lender after 6 months. Now, that's really tough to make work. One is because mortgage lenders' valuers, and I've been dealing with them for 20 plus years, mortgage lenders' valuers only consider tangible improvements made to the property to uplift the value. Now, if it was good enough to get a mortgage in the first place, there's not a huge amount of value you can add. So therefore, buy, refurb, refinance is hell of a lot more challenging to make work if a property is good enough to get a mortgage on in the first place. Pretty much making it impossible to work is the competition to buy it. So if you've got 10, 15, 20 people all making offers and some getting carried away and going over the asking price, no, you're not going to put your cash out. So it's pretty much impossible to make BRR work if you're going to do that. You've got to go to the stuff where it does work, to the extent that it does work. And, let's be clear, you're not going to get all your money out on every deal. You will leave some cash in. And as long as you can get it out within a couple of years, I think that's still a reasonable deal. And when I say cash out, by positive monthly cash flow, rent over mortgage. So buying properties with a problem, but a problem you know how to solve, and using, hey, if you've got a big pile of cash, well, use it because you've got zero borrowing costs. But majority of people I come across haven't. So the alternative is bridging finance. Now, use it sensibly. Use a brokerage that's done hundreds of these loans over 10 years, i.e. our brokerage, and we'll keep you safe. And sometimes people bring us deals and we say, that ain't a deal. You ain't going to make money on that. So, we turn away deals if we think you're not going to make money on them. We say, look at what you're spending. Just save yourself a whole load of hassle. Go and buy one done up already, because you're going to have the same result. The stuff other people don't want to buy is where the money is.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And obviously you guys have got all property filters, so you can go and find these, cash buyer only or complicated deals, or you can see those that have been sticking on the market for a long time, fallen through a few times and all that. So,
I encourage people to come on Property Filter, and that makes it really easy because Property Filter does all the heavy lifting. But for those people that maybe don't have the budget for that, you're probably here because you do. But then, you can do this on, it's more legwork, it's more time, and if you're not full-time in property, time is precious, because the only time you've got is when you're not working and when you're not sleeping, and that's your leisure time. So you have to, that your leisure time takes a hit. So Property Filter means that you claw back some of that leisure time, but still get the result you want in property. So it's, I see it's, greatly valuable for that. But I see some questions in there. I'm happy to roll through them if that's all right with you, Gwilym.
Yeah. I was going to read them out to you if you like. So
okay, let's do it that way. Go on.
Yeah, we've got. I think the first one was as a question. So we've got some really good feedback, about the talk and about Kevin's teaching and wisdom. Thank you, Shania. Salek is asking, hi Kevin, how do I get in touch with your property finance partner, please, for the number, please? I think is the best way to come? You can meet them in person at the barbecue, isn't it? No, I suppose.
That's a great way, yeah. But no, I'll stick the I'll stick the phone number in there. But be prepared that. So here's the thing. I see this on the posting Facebook groups every day. Anyone know a good broker? My business partner Tony says, anyone know a good client? If you don't know what you're doing, Tony will tell you exactly that. You don't know how to structure a deal. So if you feel you're pretty property savvy and you understand how bridging works and you priced up a deal and you want us to broker it, that's fine. If you want him to teach you how to do it, he ain't going to do it. He's going to say, I'm too busy brokering. You need to talk to Kevin. And Kevin will tell you.
And it's why you set up the education in the first place, is because on the brokerage, you see a lot of, you wanted to help these people.
Now, I'll be honest here. Tony and I, we're business partners, have been for going on 10 years. And if we have one thing common, it's plain speaking. So if you don't like being spoken to in a plain manner and not beaten about the bush, then we're probably not a good fit. So if you like being told as it is, with respect, you know, we're not abusive, but if you like respectfully being told how it actually is, then we'll get on great. But yeah, I'll put when we finish, before we go, I'll put the number in the chat. There we are. That's okay.
Yeah,
good.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Then we've got a couple of people asking for the recording. So it's broadcast in a Facebook group and will be available for a while, and then we'll take it down in a few weeks. But it'll be available there so most of you will be Property Filter members, and will, as a client of Kevin, actually, Kevin buys Property Filter licenses, so you should have access to it as well. As you log on to your Property Filter, there will be a link to join the Facebook group as well, and you can see it there. Then we've got Mary, who says, "Hi Kevin, I've got a seller who has 3-bed luxury bungalows for sale and 12 commercial units on 1 acre of land. Could a bridge be done on this type of deals? Seller wants 1.9 million, Mary."
Okay, Mary, great question. In principle, yes, they can. So bridging would work on that. The question would be, what do you want to do with it? So Bridges, here's the one question Bridger wants to know. What are you going to do to make money that's going to allow you to pay us back? Now, you can disclose as little or as much as you feel like doing in a forum like this. But if you want to have a private chat with me on that, then Gwilym will connect you up, no doubt. But yeah, so if you plan to develop it, if it's got 12 commercial units on an acre of land, or do you want to run those commercial units? So are they vacant and you want to tenant them, or are they tenanted and you want to take over the rent? Bridging lenders are saying, what are you going to do to add value? Now, if you've got a plan to add value, and even better, exponential value, Mary, in other words, whatever you plan to do to it is going to add more value than the cost of what you want to do to it, then bridgers are going to be interested. The value won't scare them. They got very deep pockets. So 1.9 million, no, that's no issue at all. They might want to know a bit about you and your background. It might be a bit challenging if that's your first ever deal in property, but I'm guessing you'd be a pretty brave person that jumps off the diving board into the deep end on a 2 million deal when you've never done a property before. So I'm guessing you've got a bit of experience there. But yeah, so in principle, yes, they can, as long as you can satisfy their requirement to say, what are you going to do to add value so you can pay us back? Yeah.
Awesome. Next, we've got Phil. So Phil, do you want to unmute yourself just to go through this? Because I think it's a good question about the interest roll-up.
Well, I had 2 very quick questions, if that's all right. Hi, Kevin. Question 1 is, we use bridging a lot, and what we find is the more interesting deals, the bridger tends to want to retain their interest and not allow us to service. Do you come across this much?
Yeah, absolutely. There's 3 types of 3 ways bridgers deal with interest: retained, serviced, and rolled up. Retained interest is the default option. They will service it as long as you can show them net residual income going back several months, that you've got more than that money left over in any bank account to service the loan. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to get serviced.
Yeah, we can prove that, but we still get refused, regularly refused. So nearly always retained. For anything interesting, it's nearly always retained. I don't know why that is. I just wondered if you had the same issue or not.
No. It could be you're dealing with the wrong lenders.
And then the second question was just with respect to your getting a higher uplift on the market value property. Is that only residential that's available to? Because I had a commercial property that I had under a purchase option, and we had 3 national brokers, including 1 truly national broker, look at the property. So I'd had it under an option for a year, and the property value was 35% more by Rick's survey than I was paying, and I could not get a bridger to lend at the purchase value, at the market value. They would only lend at the purchase value.
because it was commercial?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wondered if you had any experience of being able to resolve that.
Well, there's always bridges that won't lend, but you only need one that will. And we you know, we've been, I'd say literally we brokered hundreds of bridging loans going back, you know, over a dozen years. So you know, being national doesn't equate with being savvy in bridging. I'm not disrespecting any other broker, but we put our expertise up against anyone in the country. Am I saying, oh yeah, we do that, no problem? No, because I haven't had a look at the deal. But either myself or Tony would say we'd have a fair shot at getting pretty much every deal placed. As long as it's profitable, as long as what you want to do, it sounds like it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it was I thought it'd be really simple. I'll be honest with you. I was quite surprised that, and what, you know, like the two of the bridges are national. When I say national, they are like, one's a deal packaging, you know, top of the tree, you know, kind of one as well. They're very more expensive than others, but a master broker, and they just turned around and said, no, you can't. At the moment we cannot do that. Don't know whether it was just a timing issue or what.
Could have been. You know, I mean, you know, look, everyone got a bit twitchy during and in the immediate aftermath of COVID. I mean, when we were in lockdown 1, Tony was chatting to one of our bridges, and they were giving us almost a daily update of their revision of terms and what they would and won't lend on. And when Tony challenged them and said, look, you know, what's going on here? Like, you know, you're changing your mind every day. He said, yeah, because we, you know, we're literally in uncharted territory. And I loved his phrase. He says, we're changing our terms more than I change my underpants at the moment. So things have calmed down a bit since then. But so, you know, but I think sort of, you know, COVID and that, you know, once in a century experience shook everyone up. And in terms, I don't think the recent spike in interest rates has really impacted on bridging lenders overly. Mortgage lenders have reacted with higher charges, but and higher rates, but bridging lenders generally haven't, because they get their money from different sources. But yeah, hey, look, give us a try.
All right, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
No worries.
Then we've got Eva, who's got 2 questions. So I'll start with the later one. So is anybody familiar with underpinning and things like that? So you can ask this in the Facebook group. So it's a bit of a general question. And then the first one is around, again, about a deal. So it's going to be difficult because we don't know the specifics, but there is an apartment portfolio already reduced by the seller for 27%. I suppose this is reduced from a previous asking price, waiting for a sale since March. We are interested in it, asking price around £1 million. Shall we still negotiate as it's still 6 apartments? I guess it will be boiled down to the retail versus wholesale value. And how can you add what Kevin, you know, this exponential value Kevin talks about?
So, I mean, again, if you're gonna refinance it, again, mortgage lenders' valuers typically look at tangible improvements. So just because you bought it cheap doesn't mean you're going to get it valued at more than you paid for it. They're just going to say, great, you bought it cheap. What have you done? What have you done that's improved the value? Nothing. Okay, we'll value it at what you purchased at that. And pretty much every lender works on that basis. Now, if you've said, well, you know, it's part vacant and we're going to tenant it, and the tenants that are there, we're going to up the rent because it's out of sync with market value. Okay, well, you know, that is a substantial increase in the rental income is a tangible improvement, and that could work. So again, unless you want to just slam £250,000 in cash in there and leave it in there for the foreseeable future while you wait for market value increases, to take effect, or a couple of years to pass and you can refinance. If there's nothing need doing to it, again, you know, it's a question of, you know, now, are there people with you know, quite a bit of money that would say, well, I'll have a portfolio, you know, I'll sink 250 grand into a portfolio for $1 million that I can get for $1 million that's worth more than 1.25, and I'll take the equity growth in the future. And, you know, leaving £250,000 in there doesn't really worry me. Now, those are the people that are probably going to be looking at stuff like that. If you need to recycle your cash out, then you've got to be a little bit smarter and say, right, how do I add value? What's the angle here that I can add value? Because adding value is the critical factor to recycling your cash.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Then we got Chris, who's asking, I regards bridging finance. I would like to know, how is market value determined? Is market value not what I pay for it, or do we get this information by offering on the property, before offering on the property?
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks for your question. Is market value not what you pay for it? No, purchase price is what you pay for it. The market value could be different. Now, the only time when market value and purchase price are the same are when you buy in a traditional auction, because bridgers then say, look, you paid market value because someone would have outbid you if they didn't. But that's because you've got a condensed sale time, a sale process. You exchange contracts on fall of the hammer, and you complete 28 days later in most cases. Now, when you're going through, when you're going through agents or going direct to vendor, well, you know, you can buy below value, below. Now, I don't like this word market, or this phrase market value, below market value. I think true current value is a more accurate term. If you can buy below true current value, in other words, a genuine discount to value, then a market value bridger would lend in that. How is it determined? Very simple. The bridger's valuer goes out there and values what they see. Yeah. Now, if it's a market value bridger and they're open to the principle of valuing against market value, then they will be instructed, the value will be instructed to ignore the purchase price and just value what he sees. Now, it's based, if you remember, it's based on the lower of the market value or the asking price. So how do you get in? So that's the third part of the question. How do you get this information before offering on a property? Not so easy. Well, actually, I'll withdraw that and say, if you're a property filter subscriber, then you would get that information from Property Filter, because that's where the market value would be. Now, I'm not going to spend time telling you how to do that, because Gwilym's A, already done it, and B, has probably got some tutorials within the system that tell you how to do it. But that tells you this is where Property Filter does the heavy lifting. Tells you that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Then Aaron is one of many actually asking for the finance brokerage contact. Please, Kevin, if you got it handy.
I'll put that in. I'll type that in when we get to the questions.
Yes. Okay. Eva, what if the value has already been added? So this is back to the portfolio we had before. So
yeah, tough. You lose out. Because you can't add value twice. So someone's beat you to it. They're the ones that's going to make the profit there. You're not. So if you're buying these, if you're buying them below value, and there's nothing you can do to add value to them, you're just going to get a mortgage at 75% at best of the purchase price you pay. So if you're looking at a way to get into that portfolio without putting much cash in, ain't going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Sorry,
you.
that's not the answer you wanted, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
But it's the whole idea with this buy, refer, refinance. So basically, we should call it buy, add value, refinance. Basically.
That would be a yeah. You could have created a new acronym there.
Yeah. So it's like our shortlist strategies on Property Filter. I like to call it the buy, don't refer, refinance.
There's that one too. Yeah.
So then we've got another Phil. So as someone who would like to do my first ever deal with bridging, the personal guarantee is what scares me the most, as that goes outside the confine of the limited company. Is there a way to get around this?
There is, Phil. Pay a stinking great interest rate.
Mm.
So if you want to make bridging really expensive, then do that. Because any bridger that takes away the comfort of a personal guarantee is going to ring fence their investment a different way, and that'll be by charging a punitive rate of interest. Yeah, that's the marketing operation. Now, why are you scared about it? Let's examine that. Now, personal guarantees. The reason any lender really, whether it's a buy-to-let lender, commercial lender, a bridging lender, wants a personal guarantee when they lend to a limited company is because you can shut the thing overnight and limit their accessibility to recouping their investment in your building. So the alternative to that is to say, look, we're going to ring fence this so we're never short of money, and we rarely, if ever, expect to ask you to cough up. But if we are, we want to know that you're not going to deliberately try and defraud us of money by dumping us out of being able to access the property, because the company doesn't exist. It's not so they can't get their money back, but it's just more difficult. And why would they just let you get away with something that makes their more life difficult? It's their money, their rules. Okay, so here's why it's not the risk you think it is. They're never going to lend you more than 75% of the value on a property. Now, that means that they could, if you force them by your actions or your incorrect actions to leave them with what they see as no option other than repossess the property, they're going to chuck it into auction, typically, and get rid of it. Now, if they've got the interest up front, then, or even if you're servicing it, then you're pretty much, even if they sell it for 75% of the value, they're pretty much going to cover their bets. Now, if they happen to be a bit short, then it's the balance that they come after. Now, here's the point. Unlike business loans, which require security, which is usually people's homes, these personal guarantees are unsecured. So there's no asset that is put up for that security. It's an unsecured personal guarantee. So all they're going to say is, come to you and says, hey, can we have the money? And then if you haven't got it in the bank, you're going to have to reach an arrangement on how you pay them. But I think the key here is what you say. This is your first deal. So if your first deal, maybe what I've just explained wasn't clearly understood and known, because people that are more experienced in bridge and understand and borrowing using limited companies understand that personal guarantees are the way it works. But if you really want a way around it, pay through the nose on the interest rate.
It's a longer discussion already, Kevin. So it's bouncing back to your offer about spending a day with you at the barbecue and other people, or at your one-day event. So both of them I did, and if only one thing, the Frenchman here approves the food, so the food alone makes it worth it.
I'll take that as a compliment.
And then you can spend the day with Kevin. So these are, you know, deep, and I know especially when you start out, this bridging is misunderstood, and then as long as you know what you are doing, you know, you can really make some really clever deal structuring, and then you can spend all day with Kevin, you know. It's very reasonable investment, I'd say. So I've done it myself. I find it really high value. So yeah, I recommend you go and spend a day with Kevin, you know. Why wouldn't you? We've got John and Steve after, and then we'll probably wrap up.
Should we do those and then wrap up?
Yeah. So
Okay.
John, again, about the deal. So it's complicated, you know, to talk about deals because we don't really know the details. But John walked away from a direct-to-vendor 1.5 million portfolio of flats and bedside because we couldn't add tangible value, couldn't extend up, side, or below. And all that could be done was to refurb a small number of the flats and the communal areas and tidy up outside. Was I right to do so?
Well, was I right to do so? If I wanted to pull my cash back out and refinance, yes, you were, John. Yeah. If you happen to leave the thick end of 400 grand cash sat in there, no, you weren't. but I'm guessing that wasn't the case. So yeah, I mean, doing refurb in a small number of the flats, it's gonna, you know, you'd have to refurb at least 50% of them, or increase the rent, or both. Of course, you've got airspace development, but I'm guessing you might have looked into that, but that wasn't viable on that particular one. Okay, no, so yeah, so yeah, the way you're phrasing that question leads me to think you've got a bit of experience, at least in property, so you'd have worked that angle out if you could. So yes, I'd say you were. Yeah.
And it's going back to your pyramid about the deals value, and then you can I know you overlay this with the complexity of the deals and the complexity of the problem you solve. And then the thinner as you said, the thinner the hair and the purer the hair because there's less competition, you know, this is where the deals are. So this is all your cash only deals, you know, on Property Filter, for example. There'll be a lot less people going after them. And this is where you can, you know, speak with Kevin and see how you can structure it so that you don't need a big deposit because of the different bridging things, you know, you can look at. So by just
I would say very few people I meet before I train them believe they can play at the £1 million level. There's one guy, Aston, his belief was, before we met, that £250,000 was his level. The next deal we looked at was just over £1 million, and nothing changed, and other than he understood how to structure finance. Yeah, so most people are playing way too small a game for the resources they've got available. Right, last question, Steve.
We've got Steve here. When adding value to a property, would you say, from your experience, this would be an house extension, or could you do up a really run-down house and fit new bathrooms and kitchen and clean up the house without extending?
Both would add value. Whenever you add living space, particularly if you haven't got to build all 4 walls, which you don't have to with an extension, you usually got to build 3 or sometimes even 2 walls. You usually add exponential value, because living space is premium and precious. But if it's a back to brick refurb, then you can make money doing that. Yeah. Without extending. It's just the cosmetic tart-ups that are just almost impossible to make work.
Yeah, those cosmetic refurb. Well, thanks so much, Kevin. Thank you, everybody. So I really encourage you to go and spend a day with Kevin. You know, it's really good value. And so yeah, thank you for joining today's Deals Finders Corners. Again, take Kevin's offer and see if you can spend a day with the barbecue with him. I will come at the October one as well. So and then
right. Yeah, you already booked in for the winter feast, aren't you?
I did, yeah, I did. And I think, and then you invite me to do a little segment on the Leeds one. So we can also, if you book for your one day with Kevin, and if you are in the north, I'll be happy to see you guys as well.
That's right.
In Leeds, end of June.
You're gonna be the other speaker. Yeah.
And so yeah, in the meantime, visit propertyfilter.co.uk, log on to your Property Filter account, check out your the deal blueprint.
Phone number.
What's that?
Phone number.
Yeah, very good. I'll let you put this as I wrap up. Yeah, I forgot about it.
Yeah, someone, yeah.
And so visit property filter and check out the new menu where you define your gold mine area, engage with the motivated sellers, see if you can set up some lead generator with cash only buyers, and see where you can add value with what Kevin talked about today, and then with the teachings you'll get from spending a day with him, and use the tools in there to assess properties in seconds and ultimately load your pipeline so you can make deals. Have an endless supply of deals, join the 1% and become an high achiever deal finder. I hope you enjoyed today's Deal Finders Corner. Do take on the phone number here from Kevin before we wrap up, and I look forward to see you next week, where we'll talk about sales negotiation and conveyancing to making sure you push all your deals across the line. And next week will be in the evening. So I'll leave it a couple of seconds so you have time to pick up the phone number, and I'll speak with you soon. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
That's great. I'm just reading a couple of comments. Deborah says, looking forward to meeting at the barbecue. Fantastic. Yeah, gonna do that. And who was it? Someone said about plain speaking. Where was that?
Yeah. I think the yellow shirt and the plain speaking is
oh, Steve. There we are. Steve said enjoyed the presentation, love plain speaking. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm going to do it anyway, so you either like it or you don't. There we are, and that's fine. Good stuff.
There we go.
So, there we are. Okie doke.
Okay, thanks so much, Kevin. Thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
You're very welcome.
See you next week. Speak soon, Kevin. Thank you all. See you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye now.